finishing your plaited square willow bark basket. I'm going to dip it into the water. You can spray it alternatively. All along we've been making sure that these weavers remain flexible. That's in preparation for doing the border as well as weaving in general. In the border we're going to be creasing these. Maybe that's the wrong word, folding these. We're not going to actually push down and put a crease in it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At this point, so I've woven up as high as I'm going to go. I determined that by finding some of my shorter pieces and checking. So this is eventually going to go over, so this piece is going to fold over on itself. It's going to go over this piece and this piece. So here and here, and it's going to be woven in here. And then I'd like a little bit on the other side to pull it through and tug it securely. So this is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. I'm going to say have nothing pointing out to the right or left that is less than 1.5 inches thick. Okay, but before I actually do that, I want to make sure of two things. I want to make sure that all my spacing is even, roughly even. So this is my bottom of my basket. I've got about 1 to 2 millimeters spacing in between these. And there can be a tiny bit of variation, but the less variation, the better. So I'm noticing here on the bottom, some of these look a little bit closer. So I'm going to take my awl and loosen that up a little bit. This looks pretty close here too. So with this, I can move this piece down, this piece up. I'm going to move that piece out of the way as well. Looks like everything got a little bit tight toward the bottom. So I'm just going to try to even it out a little bit with the awl. Now the pieces at the top alternatively look a little bit like there's a little bit too much of a space. So you can do this with your hands and fingernails or with your awl. And the second thing that I'd like you to keep in mind, so before we start actually folding the pieces over at the top to create our rim or border, we want everything going the same direction. So what that's going to be in this case, so we want, let me restate that, we want everything going off to the right in front of the piece going off to the left. So for example, this piece is off to the right. It's in front of this piece here that's going off to the left. Now let's see if that's true for the next piece. Almost. This piece needs to slide down a little bit. Okay. Now it's over the piece going off to the left. Okay, how about that next piece? So the next piece is slid out a little bit as well. I'm going to check that spacing on that piece as I put it in. Now that piece, I'm checking. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get these the same height. So how do I tell that my top pieces are level? One way to do this before you get used to seeing it without is to use a ruler. So I want to determine the line on the top that is parallel to the base, and the base is here, going from the corner on the left to the corner on the right. So I'm going to move it up, keeping that ruler parallel to the top. Now I have put the pieces on the left going off, I put the pieces going off to the right on top of the pieces going to the left, as we've previously discussed. And I'm just placing the ruler below one level where those weavers are coming out to the right. It's just where they cross over the one going to the left. So the ruler is just below that spot all the way across. And I can see that the pieces coming out to the right are all coming out in the same spot in relationship to the ruler. So right on top of the ruler. So that's one way to check. Okay, so we're going to assume I've done that all the way around and that I like my spacing and that I've woven evenly to the top, and all the pieces going off to the right are on top of the pieces going off to the left. Okay, so I'm going to take one of these pieces going off to the right. I'm going to bring it over this piece and this piece, and I'm going to bring it down underneath and weave it in and pull it snugly. So I'm going to still maintain that same spacing here and here. So this piece needs to come down a little bit. And then I'm going to snug that up. I'm not going to make a hard crease because I still may do some adjusting of this piece as we continue on. Okay, so I'm going to do that with all the pieces going off to the right. I'm going to weave it over two pieces and under one and out. After you get two or three of these in place, you'll see the pattern and it'll be easier to see. Okay, checking my spacing. Again, making sure everything's nice and flexible. If not, wet it. Okay, third piece. So this is going, the one off to the right is underneath the one to the left. It's going to come over the first two and then under this one. It's folding over on itself. So this piece off to the right is folding over on itself. Okay, so continue that all the way around. Okay, so after the first step of the border was completed, this is what it will look like. So it's going to look the same all the way around. Some of your weavers sticking out will be a little longer than others. So everything going off to the right has now been woven down and to the left. The next step is to take one of the weavers at the top that's going off to the left, and they're all going off to the left, weave it over the first piece, under the second piece, and out. And I will show you that. Over the first piece, under the second piece, and out. Again, the weaver is folding over on itself. Okay, then you're going to move left to right again and take the next piece going off to the left. It's going to go over the first piece and under the second. Now it's going under two pieces. It's got this piece on top and the piece right underneath it. So it's going under both of those. And then you're pulling it down. You're pulling it down so that it's pretty tight. It's not creased, but it's tight. Okay, so I've got 2 going down. So it was going off to the left. It's folding over itself, going down to the right, going over 1. So this is where it's gone over, under 2 pieces, and out. 2 pieces, one on top of the other, and out. And you continue this all the way around. Okay, after you've finished that last step, this is what it will look like before you've done the final trimming. To do the final trimming, I would make sure that you like the looks of the spacing of the sides. If that meets your satisfaction, then I would go around and check the evenness of the top. And this looks okay. So in some cases, your weaver may have been skewed up or down, so pull it in alignment. And you may need to snug it up a little bit. If you pull too tight, it will make it go out of shape. So there's a just right in terms of tightness, and you'll probably see what that is from playing with it a little bit. Okay, the final step is to do the trimming. And when we trim, we actually, so I'm going to hold it kind of at the top, and I'm going to pull just a little bit more. So I did release that thumb at the top. And then I'm going to hold right here on the second piece. So I'm going to be cutting right here. And I want to make sure not to cut the piece next to it. Now I pulled that down just a little bit, and then when I rotate this up just a tiny bit, can you see that it receded, and it's not very noticeable now. So you do that all the way around with the ones going off to the right, and do the same thing with the ones going off to the left, and you're done. Enjoy your basket.